Hello and welcome back to the Level Up English podcast. My name is Michael, and it is a very nice, what is it? July? I think it's July, isn't it? July morning here. So I hope your summer is going well, assuming that you're in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're somewhere down south, I hope your winter is going well. But either way, welcome back to another Wednesday episode. Today we're talking all about houses and housing, maybe specifically in the UK. This was a suggestion I got from a listener. So you may not know, but a lot of my episodes are based on suggestions. So if there's anything that you want me to talk about, get in touch with me. Leave a audio comment, send me an email, whatever you prefer, and send me your ideas, because this is a listener inspired, I don't know if that's the right word, but a listener inspired podcast. I think you know what I want to say. That the stuff I make here is for you. And if you give me ideas, then the podcast can only get better, right? But yeah, this was a suggestion. I get a lot of questions actually about moving to the UK, how to get a house in the UK, and all this kind of stuff. And honestly, a lot of it, I don't know what to say, because I have never moved to the UK before. I get a lot of questions about immigration and finding a university, which one is the best, and I just don't have that experience, honestly. I'm born here, I grew up here, so I'm not really the best person to ask. So for those people, I always suggest finding someone who has a similar situation to you. Maybe they have moved from your country to the UK before, and they know what they're talking about. But yeah, you have to pick the right person to ask. But anyway, in this episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the housing situation in the UK. I'm going to be talking about houses versus homes, some vocabulary. I'm also going to talk about my own experience with getting a home in the UK and also renting perhaps as well. And as always, there's going to be lots of good expressions, vocabulary, and things along the way. I always like to say that. So even if you think, oh, this topic sounds boring, I don't need to know that, at least there's something you can learn, right? The worst case scenario is you will be bored, but you will learn something, right? That's my hope. But of course, my main hope is that you will not be bored. I want to make English learning fun. I am very busy over on Level Up English these days. Right now, I'm in the process of adding more group classes, and it's going to be a really, really big update to the website. So by the time this episode comes out, it may have changed quite a lot. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But right now, at the time I'm recording this, I'm working on adding more group classes. So hopefully at the beginning, we will have 2 group classes every week. At the moment, I'm thinking maybe Friday and Saturday, because most people will be free on those days. I know a lot of people, Friday is their weekend as well. So hopefully that's interesting. If you are interested in group classes, then head over to levelupenglish.school and click on the members button at the top of the page, and you can find out more about the group classes over there. It's really exciting. And I'm also excited for when I finish this big update, because when I add these classes, I've got so many things I want to do on Level Up English. I want to update a lot of old content, old videos, make it look nicer and newer. I also want to add more content. So there's some lessons, for example, that are just text lessons. I want to change that and add video to everything. So that's something I will be working on over the next few weeks, hopefully. And this is also a huge project. I still don't know if it's even possible. But one of my goals with Level Up English is to make it more chronological. That's a hard word, but chronological means in time order. So essentially, I want you to be able to go from lesson 1 to lesson 2. You don't have to think, ooh, where should I start? There's so much content. Where do I start? I want you to be able to just choose, okay, start here and then go through the curriculum, go through the lessons one by one. And it's really tough because I have to make it useful for everyone and combine things together, but that's my ultimate goal with the website. If you have any suggestions, let me know, but I've got some ideas of how I could do that. But yeah, in summary, lots going on. I'm excited about the future of the website. And if you want to find out more and become a member, which also helps support the podcast and me, then you can go to, again, levelupenglish.school, and you click on the members button at the top of the page. And that will take you to kind of a separate website where we, talk in private. We have that private members community over there. But anyway, let's get into the topic then. So it's said that if you have enough food, if you have water, and you have a roof over your head, then you have enough to be happy, right? You need those basic needs met, and that's all you need, really. That's a good phrase as well, to have a roof over your head. It just means to have some shelter, have somewhere dry and warm, or maybe cold if you're in a hot country. I know a lot of you are. If you have one of these places, then that's all you need, really. That's the basic needs met. So, of course, it's natural that housing would be a good topic to talk about. It's a very basic human need, and I'm sure there's a lot of things in English that we could cover here. So I will try to keep this as interesting as possible, and I'll try to cover some of the situation going on in the UK and problems around housing that people are facing, and my own experience as well. But on the other hand, I don't tend to follow the news too much. I just found it's not good for my mental health. I'm kind of avoiding the news. And ever since I did that, my life has got much, much better, honestly. I don't think it's good to be ignorant of what's going on, but I also don't think it's a good idea to just be constantly absorbing all of the bad news all around the world. I don't think our little brains are made for that. So I'm not the best person to ask about this, news situations. But from what I do know, Britain is going through a severe housing crisis at the moment. Crisis means a problem, a big problem. Severe means very serious. If you have a severe injury, it's a serious injury. There's a severe housing crisis because the pricing of houses, the prices of houses, and the cost of rent is increasing quite quickly, especially in London. I hear it's crazy in London how expensive it is to rent. And the big problem here is the salary, the wages that people get is not increasing to match the increasing housing costs, right? So in other words, the expenses you have to expend, that's not a good sentence, is it? The amount you have to spend on a house is increasing, but your wages are not. So things are getting more and more expensive. And there's, if you want to rent in London, it's going to be really difficult because you have to spend so much money, and probably all you'll get is a tiny room in a shared house. You have to be quite wealthy to be able to live in London, especially on your own. I mean, some would say that's kind of impossible these days. You need to live with someone to make it affordable, unless you're rich, really. So I found some information online, some of which I will include the sources on my blog post, which you will find at levelupenglish.school/podcast 230. And so yeah, I've got some interesting statistics here. So one is that the average house in the UK costs more than 10 times the average salary. That's quite Crazy, right? Actually, I don't. What is the average salary? Let me see. Well, according to a random Google search, the average salary is £33,000, and that would mean the average house costs £330,000. That's about one third of £1 million, right? So that's a lot of money for one house. It would take you basically 10 years to pay for a house in the UK fully, right? And I don't know, is it the same in your country? Is it worse? Is it better? Who knows? But maybe you can let me know. Another problem is the vacancy rate. Vacancy means not being somewhere. If you're vacant, it's empty. No one is there. The vacancy rate is how many houses that are not lived in, unoccupied houses. The vacancy rates are below 1%. So that's another problem, is there just aren't enough houses for people. There needs to be more houses. That's a problem. Space for each person for private renters has dropped substantially in recent decades. So the amount of space that you have has dropped. So as I said, if you want to rent a flat, it's going to be really, really small rooms, really small places. Landlords often like to squeeze lots of people into one place, and it has dropped substantially. That's a really nice phrase, meaning it has gone down a lot. Substantially just means a lot. Really advanced word. Good for IELTS exam as well, if you want to increase your range of vocabulary. Interestingly, I did research about homelessness, because I see in my city where I am now, homelessness seems to have increased. I see a lot of tents everywhere, more than before. But according to this statistic, homelessness peaked in 2017. Peaked means the top, where it went the highest. So about 6 years ago now, homelessness peaked. And it's actually lower today. So it's gone down, decreased, since 2017. Although it's still almost double the level it was 10 years ago. So compared to 2013 or 2010, it's around about double how it was then. So it seems to be decreasing since 2017 maybe. But who knows, it might go back up again. And one final statistic here is the number of families in England and Wales with adult children living with their parents. So that's as an adult living with your parents, I guess above the age of 20 or something like that, increased 13.6% in the last 10 years. And now, as of 2021, it was about 3.8 million people still living with their parents. It may be much more in your country, but I think in the UK, it's not so common to live with your parents. It's not part of the culture here, I suppose. So generally, if you're an adult and you're living with your parents, the reason is probably not because you want to, honestly. It's probably because you cannot afford to live somewhere else. Even if you love your parents, as you should, it is still very normal to want to move out in the UK. So that isn't a problem in itself necessarily, but it's indicative of a problem. Indicative is an adjective from the verb indicate. Indicate means to show. So it's indicative means it shows that there is a problem. That's another good advanced word that you can use. There's a lot of really good kind of phrases or sayings around houses too that I love. One of them is, home is where the heart is. I love this one. So this is all about that concept of home, the idea of home. What does home mean for you? Home is where the heart is. This one speaks to me a lot. This one has a lot of meaning for me because I tend to move house almost like once every year or once every 2 years. I hate staying in the same place. I love moving and seeing new places. And honestly, there isn't one specific location where I feel at home. I can be, I can be in Japan, I can be anywhere in the UK, and I can feel at home, which is, I think, quite a nice thing sometimes. Just the ability to feel comfortable wherever you are. But I think it's not the location that's important. It's where you're it's just where you feel comfortable. You get that warm feeling in your chest, in your heart. Like, this is nice. I like it here. I'm comfortable. To me, that is kind of a sense of home, that feeling of safety and maybe community as well. Going to the same cafe every day, meeting the same people. To me, that's what makes a home. Home is where the heart is. I love that expression. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you feel the same, or maybe you really are a homebody. That's someone who likes being at home. You like your house. You don't like the outside world. You like staying inside in your familiar, comfortable house, maybe. But it is interesting. There's a difference here between house and home. There is overlap, so it can mean the same thing. I'm going to my house, I'm going home is the same, right? Notice we say to my house, but we don't say to home. We just say I'm going home. So there's a grammatical difference. But also, home is often used in a more abstract way. Home is a feeling, a place you feel comfortable, but it's not necessarily a building, right? So this feeling of home, we don't say feeling of house. That doesn't make sense. So another expression is make a house a home. So a house is just a building where you live. It's a simple building. A home is more about the feeling of being comfortable, feeling of belonging somewhere. So if you buy a house and it's empty, kind of like my house is these days, I don't have much furniture, it doesn't really feel like a home. It's just a big empty room. If you put things you love in there, like pictures of your family, maybe you get a pet cat or something, maybe you get some nice furniture, you paint the walls the color that you like. This is the process of turning a house into a home. And I would argue the best thing you can do is make memories there. The more memories you have in a place, the more it feels like home. So there's lots of more abstract things you can do to make a house a home. If you like, I could also talk a little bit about my own experience with getting a house in the UK. I haven't found it too challenging let me explain that first. In terms of the process of buying a house, I don't think it was too difficult because you meet with a mortgage advisor. Mortgage is a loan you take from the bank to pay for your house. You have to be very rich to buy a house in the UK. So almost everyone gets a mortgage, which is where you might, how much would it be? I don't know the numbers, but you might spend some money, like a percentage on the house, like 5%, 10%. I don't remember how much, but you will give some money towards the house. I believe we might have put 10% on this one. I don't remember. And then you have like maybe a mortgage over a fixed term. You might have like a 30-year mortgage, which means every month for the next 30 years, you're paying a little bit back to pay off the debt on your house. I'm sure it works similarly in your country. But yeah, for me, that's a horrible feeling, just paying someone every month for something that you feel like you already own. I really hate that feeling. I really hate it. But yeah, the actual process is not too hard. You have to be patient. It might take a few months, depending on the situation. But if you get a good mortgage advisor, I think that takes a lot of stress away from the house buying process. They will tell you what you need to do. They will give you the documents you need and all that kind of stuff. Then you also need a solicitor. Solicitor is what Americans might call like a lawyer, I believe. Solicitor is someone who deals with the law, the housing law. As a buyer, you will have a solicitor. they will talk to the seller's solicitors. So they'll talk about these, I don't know what they talk about, but they share documents, they help the process move along, and that's essential as well in buying a house. But of course, it's another thing you have to pay for. But compared to getting a home, the cost is very minimal. There's a few things like that, but it's not too difficult. It's not insurmountable. Lots of hard words today, but this one, insurmountable. In means not. To surmount, you might recognize mount. Mount means to get over something. And able means to be able, right? So insurmountable means not able to get over something, not able to overcome a problem. So it's not insurmountable, which means you can do it, basically. I'm making it very hard, but it's a good word. It's not insurmountable. You can overcome the problem. It's not impossible to do. Does that make sense? Really good advanced word if you can use it correctly. So it is possible. I think, honestly, I felt quite pressured into it in some way because everyone is talking about getting on the property ladder. The property ladder. Gives you a nice visual image of a ladder. You're climbing a ladder, and to get on the property ladder, you need to buy a house or get a mortgage on a house. And once you do that, you're on the ladder. When it comes to this kind of topic, I really don't know what I'm talking about. So you might be able to tell. But I guess what that means is once you get a house, it's much, much easier to maybe get another house or to things like that. You kind of get that feeling of security, I suppose. And once you're on there, you can keep climbing and improving and perhaps getting more properties if you want to go down that investment route. But you have to get on the ladder first. And they say getting on the property ladder is the hardest step for most people. It will be the most expensive step. But I don't know about that. It is a lot of stress, I suppose. For me personally, the situation that I had, I've always loved traveling. I've always loved to travel. And last year I did quite a lot of travel. I was a bit nomadic for a while, which means I didn't have anywhere to live. I was just traveling from place to place. It was a really nice time. But then I had a really bad experience. I've mentioned it before on the podcast when I went to Georgia and I got COVID and I was just stuck in bed for 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks felt like an eternity. It felt like I was in bed for years, honestly. And it's also quite frustrating being in a new country, not knowing anything about it, and also being unable to leave your bed. That was horrible. And at that moment, I was thinking, oh, how nice would it be just to have a house, somewhere I could stay. If I get sick, at least I know I've got somewhere to stay. Right? That's a good feeling, right? So that was a big motivator for me in order, to look for a house. I wanted to settle down. This is a good phrasal verb. To settle down means to find somewhere to live and have a more stable life. It often includes starting a family, having children, maybe not planning to move again for a long time. So at that moment I thought, yeah, settling down might be nice. A big motivator as well was to get an office like this one where I've got a microphone, I've got a background. It's much more convenient than taking it to my Airbnb, right? My microphone is not so convenient. So having a nice office was a good motivator too, honestly. But then as soon as I did that, I kind of regretted it. I think it was a momentary feeling of, I wanted somewhere stable, but then as soon as I got over that feeling, I went back to how I was before. I want to travel, I want to explore. I'm not ready to settle down just yet. That's my personal feeling. But I'd love to hear what stage you're at in life. Have you settled down? Are you trying to settle down? Or maybe you're a bit more like me, and regardless of your age, whether you're young or old or somewhere in the middle, maybe you just want to explore, you want to travel, you don't want to be settled down. And I think whatever your choice is, I think that's fine. You shouldn't let other people pressure you into doing something you don't like, right? So, yeah. However, this house was definitely a fixer-upper, is another good phrase, or quite a casual phrase. A fixer-upper. This is like a compound noun. If a house is a fixer-upper, it just means a house that needs a lot of maintenance and fixing and things like that. So, we had to get new carpets put in, but then we had to get the stairs fixed before we could get the carpets in. And then there's problems in the kitchen, in the plumbing, there's problems in the bathroom, problems with leaking, lots of problems. It's this house was built before World War One. It's over 100 years old, and there's a lot of problems with it. So it is a fixer-upper, and on the one hand, older houses tend to be more stable than newer houses. They've been standing a long time, which is a good thing. But yeah, on the other hand, everything's a bit wonky. Everything's a bit sideways. Nothing is quite perfect, and there's a lot that needs to be updated. So it's another thing to consider if you're getting a house, I guess, is are you willing to put in the work? Because your house may just be a fixer-upper. Maybe just one more phrase I'd like to share today, which is to put down roots. If you plant a tree, in order for the tree to grow, it needs to put down roots, which is where it puts its roots deep into the ground for that stability and connection to where it's growing. And it's the same for people, right? We can put down roots, which just means to kind of stay in one place, to settle down in one place and get more secure and get more stuck in a place, I suppose. And there's many things you can do. I think, starting a family is one way to put down roots in a place, but also just making connections in your local community, I think, is a nice way. I don't know if I've said it publicly on the podcast yet. I will say it maybe next week or very soon. But I am just about to embark on a huge move. I'm moving out of this house, finally. I'm happy about that. And I'm hoping I can put down roots in my new place. I'm hoping I can, go to the same places, go to the same shops and cafes every day, meet some people, have those relationships with the community. I think that's a nice feeling. Go to some local clubs, gyms, yoga classes, right? These are all examples of putting down roots. In my opinion, that's what it would be. And it just makes you feel more secure and stable in a place. But yeah, let me know what that would look like for you. As you know, I'm always happy to hear from you. I'm always happy to hear your opinions about any topic I make. A lot of people like to leave their opinions in the comments. I love seeing that. So again, you can go to levelupenglish.school/podcast230. That's 230. And right at the bottom, there's a section you can leave a comment, share your opinions with me, and also practice some of your fantastic English writing skills. Right. But okay, I'll leave it there. I have one review today. I want to say thank you to Futedi from Japan. And they said, "Hello from Japan. I started listening to your extraordinary, a word from your latest episode, amazing podcast since the end of this April. And I finally finished listening to all your episodes. In the last 3 months, I listened to your podcast almost every day, from sunrise to sunset. And I'm pretty sure that my English skills did improve a lot. Please take care and keep going. I cannot wait to get your new episode. Arigatou gozaimasu." Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I get messages like this from time to time, and I'm always gobsmacked. Like, I'm always amazed at this. Because, so, 3 months, like over 200 episodes. That's more than one episode a day, isn't it? That's just insane to me. Like 2 episodes every day, perhaps. And that's a lot of hours of my voice to listen to. So I'm sorry, first of all, but also thank you for listening to so much. And it's nice to imagine someone in Japan on the other side of the world listening as well. So thank you for your support. Hope you hear this review. Let's finish now. Let's end on a quote related to homes. And this is by someone called Melissa Michaels. And she said, "Our homes should inspire us to go out into the world, to do great things, and then welcome us back for refreshment." Does your home inspire you to do that? Well, I'll leave it here for now, but thank you very much. If you want to hear more from me, then join me on the private podcast this week, available for members, where I will be talking a little bit about dream homes. So if you want to hear about dream homes and maybe my dream house, see you on Friday. But for now, thank you and see you in the next one. You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.